It took me long enough. Is a little different. It has both pros and cons, like all other gadgets, and it's from a company who suffers greatly in advertising. That's my kind of underdog story. Hot on the heels of the Xperia 5 announcement, Sony's premium phone division is carving out a unique path for mobile computing and multimedia consumption. The crown jewel of that strategy is this 21:9 aspect ratio UHD resolution monster display. I have a separate video arguing, again, why I would prefer to see more premium phones adopt this crazy high pixel density. Only Sony seems interested in iterating on this as a premium feature. For their first UHD OLED, users are treated to a vibrant and detail-crisp experience. Quad HD and above, it's a joy to set item size and font to the absolute smallest pitch. And I also have a second video on the aspect ratio where many have harped on this pillar boxing you might see on YouTube, which isn't much different than the pillar boxing you'll see on a Samsung, LG, or OnePlus. However, this screen is amazing for wide cinema content, especially those classic films, Grand Vistas, Gregory Peck is a Badass. I could go on. For all the techie whinging on pillar boxing, I don't think enough praise has been leveled on the portrait experience. How many apps do you use that scroll vertically? The Xperia 1 delivers a nicer vertical scroll with more info on your display. That's the trade-off. Do you watch more 16:9 content on your phone, or do you use more vertical apps? A couple more pros and cons. This skinny bar form factor is an easier reach to the opposite edge of the screen, but is super scary to use this phone without a case when you consider the reach from the bottom navigation controls to the top of the notification shade. I've got my little hobbit hands and my stumpy thumb. Some smart tweaking to gestures in Android 10 will be greatly appreciated on this phone. Two quick ergonomic points. I like the side-mounted fingerprint sensor better than an in-display option, but similar to using the Galaxy S10e, this strip is just a bit twitchier than my favorite rear-mounted solutions. And for a phone with a premium price tag, modern design, bold specs, I wish the haptic motor were just a little bit tighter, a little bit punchier. The phone will use that haptic motor to simulate the rumble of a subwoofer, but it doesn't really have that pop we like on LGs and iPhones. The specs and performance are on point though. Synthetic scores are right in line with other premium handsets. As a brief tangent, those are Geekbench 5 scores. Gotta let you know, I've already had to deal with a handful of gadget enthusiasts who can't seem to understand why the numbers got smaller. This is bull. Phones in this tier are ridiculous, crazy overkill for covering the basics, and we shouldn't be judging performance by opening a couple apps and using social media. Premium phones are becoming tablet and laptop replacement computers, disrupting other mobile computers. Rendering 4K video, Sony is right in line with LG, falling just behind Samsung and OnePlus. Stabilizing video shows a wider disparity of performance, and the Xperia is near the slower end of my Google photo test on Snapdragon 855 handsets. And gaming is an interesting thing to show off. Performance is on par with current kit and other phones, and most premium titles scale to this screen respectably well, though I can't say I always enjoyed the ergonomic experience depending on how games line up those on-screen controls. I'm still on the hunt for other real-world benchmarks for performance testing, so drop some ideas in the comments down below. What software, what other apps and services are out there that can really drive our phones? Now, a premium phone shouldn't suffer poor radio tech. The Xperia lands perfectly competitive radio performance in my less than scientific testing around town, basically margin of error differences between my LG, Samsung, and the Sony. That's real good reception. And Wi-Fi showed off similar performance out at the edges of my mesh router, and modern premium phones have no issues using all the bandwidth my cable connection has to offer. Now, shifting over to software, Sony's experience is a delightfully small step away from stock Android. Just enough customization to keep it unique, super familiar for folks comfortable with Android. Many of the additions this generation related to the display, where I'm not a huge fan of extra navigation options, sliding panels, side docks. I can appreciate there are folks who will benefit from the side panel as an ergonomic consideration. Such a tall and skinny phone, okay, maybe a side panel can come in handy. As for longer term support, I'm totally comfortable holding up Sony as a solid option for people who want good software updates. My XZ1 Compact is still getting regular bug fixes and security patches. Now, Sony might not always be the fastest at the big operating system updates, though in my experience, they usually outpace Samsung. They're very good at the maintenance updates. Quick note, getting to the camera, I put a lot of work into my standalone camera videos, and I have two on this channel linked below. The full camera conclusion and a showdown between the LG V50 and this Xperia 1. Long story short, in one generation, Sony has moved from one of the most locked up camera solutions to one of the most fully featured pro modes available on any phone. If you really care about making something on a mobile device, the Xperia 1 can now be considered a top option right out of the box, and has much better support for third-party camera apps than any previous Sony I've reviewed. But then the audio conversation. Sony no longer includes a headphone jack, and that's always going to be a bummer. Always. Now, this is less an audiophile bummer and more of a convenience bummer. Since the Xperia X, I think Sony headphone jacks have been lower quality solutions against similarly priced phones. But a built-in jack, even if it's just for sound tracking and taking phone calls, is always nicer than diddling your dongle. At least that dongle is in the box when you buy your premium expensive phone. Right, Apple? Right, Samsung? Especially if one of the arguments is mobile content production. The dongle works for plugging in microphones while shooting video, but then you can't charge the phone while shooting. It's a whole thing. I'll have to save that for a future debate video. Sony has the reputation they can leverage some of the best rated and reviewed Bluetooth accessories when talking about this premium phone, but there's not much love out there for folks who own nice cabled headphones or who want to avoid things like audio lag while gaming. Thumper is still impossible to play with Bluetooth headphones. I have a full audio deep dive alongside the full camera analysis review on the Patreon with all the charts and the graphs and the speaker comparisons, and you can check out those deep dive videos on patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. But what good is all this cool technology if your battery can't hang? Again, there's been much gnashing of teeth over two data points: display resolution and battery capacity. I saw numbers on the box that I don't like on a phone I don't use, so the battery life must be bad. Not surprisingly fine. In my limited streaming tests, I saw exactly the same kind of battery draw I would expect to see from a medium-sized Galaxy or a smaller LG. The numbers move around in other more detailed benchmarking, like the charts over at GSM Arena, but the Xperia 1 seems to hang in there well against LG G8s, Galaxy S10s, and the iPhone XS. Maybe trading a bit more web browsing time on one phone, video playback time on another phone. I was generally fine making it past dinner, except for those days I really flogged the cameras, but that's kinda true of every high-end pocket computer. They should have used less dots or bigger batteries. Actual usage is average and stacks up fine against the competition. When reviewers just show off basic services and social media use, the Xperia 1 handles that really well, even with the 4Ks on the screen. And the recharge story is pretty good too. It lagged behind the Galaxy S10e, but if you need a fast hop-off in the middle of the day, you can get some decent runtime out of a short stint on the charger included in the box. All right, I've rambled on long enough. Let's wrap this up. Where's that leave us with the Sony Xperia 1? It's really a shame Sony can't take North America as a market more seriously. This is exactly the kind of hardware which would make an impression if you saw it in person at a carrier store. It doesn't radically change the smartphone, but it is unique. It makes a different premium argument than the current market leaders, and those differences matter. There are no winners or losers in reviewing tech. The Xperia 1 gives us another terrific option to make sure a consumer can fit the exact set of pros and cons to their use. If these are the features you want, then it doesn't matter how popular or how well marketed another brand might be. We can't cry about phones getting boring, then trash phones that do something a little different and only recommend devices popular to YouTube SEO. Kinda like LG, Sony's fatal flaw here isn't the actual device. Nothing on the phone is wrong, but it's the lack of discussion coming directly from the manufacturer. Not hearing Sony hyping this up just doesn't instill us with a lot of confidence. Just imagine Xperia advertising piggybacking on Sony TVs, Sony cameras, or the PlayStation. And that's a shame, because the Xperia 1 is a badass option. I'll of course have some links down below where you can find more information on the Sony Xperia 1. Maybe shop this puppy online. As always, thanks so much for watching, for sharing these videos, subscribing to this channel. More than just nerding out on a popular phone at launch, we want to make sure folks know about other options which might fit them better. If you would like to help support the production of those conversations, there are links below. Or you could consider joining the list of names currently scrolling by on your screen. It's a growing community of fun, like-minded gadget pals, and a huge resource for me in planning future videos and reviews. They're good people. I hope you'll check it out. Now, you know where you can find me around the rest of the internet at SomeGadgetGuy on the Twitters and the Twitch, and the Facebooks and the Instagrams, and I will catch you all on the next review.